how can we help foster the public-private partnerships, bringing American capital and expertise and standards to Africa so that we can keep exploiting?
Well, the Americans have not hidden the reasons for those bases. They have made it very clear is to protect American interests in Africa.
For very many years, America has always dictated terms for Africa or to Africa. But in the year 2026, the script has flipped totally. You know, Africa is actually opting out of the old system. They are starting to say no. And of course, some generals, some senators in America are saying that if they lose Africa, then they are losing the green energy to China, to Russia. And regular Americans are also like, why they really, the government of America, why is it really that their government is spending billions of dollars trying to control African politics, yet their own borders, their own cities are in chaos or are struggling? So in today's video, I want us to talk, or I will tell you why the US approach is terribly failing. So we are going to talk from the point of de-dollarization, where African leaders have come in large numbers to condemn the use of euro, the use of...
They are not manufacturing anything at all. It's printing money. And this has been one of their weapons globally. The monetary system, the global monetary system, controlled by dollar and euro, has been used. Sanctions here, sanctions there, sanctions there, grabbing this account, grabbing that account, has been one of their tools. This is not going to continue indefinitely. And we need a new financial architecture globally, not controlled by euro, not controlled by the dollar, not controlled by other currencies.
Central bank digital currencies and regional clearing houses are being tested. Some African banks are already experimenting with cross-border payments in local currencies, a trend that should be promoted. This is the future. Bitcoin is often raised as an example. While volatile, it proves that currencies outside Western control can circulate globally. But we must not merely be spectators. Africa must design its own platforms. SWIFT is a colonial chokehold. Our own systems must be the arteries of Africa's future. If they can sanction our banks, we must build our own banks. If they can switch off SWIFT, we must switch on Africa. Some lessons for Africa's common currencies. What lessons can Africa learn from BRICS? The first is intra-African trade. The African continental free trade area is meaningless if 80% of our trade is settled in foreign currencies. A common African currency would reduce costs, expand markets, and build true African economic independence. Gaddafi's legacy. Muammar Gaddafi dreamed of a gold-backed African dinar. He was assassinated not for oppressing his people, but because he threatened dollar supremacy. His blood is on the hands of those who fear African freedom. His dream must therefore be resuscitated one day. Sovereignty is another lesson. A common currency is not just economic, it is political. It would make Africa a negotiating bloc of 1.4 billion people, not just 54 vulnerable states begging for trade crumbs. The Sahel Alliance, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are showing Africa that sovereignty is not a slogan. It is possible. Their rejection of neocolonialism is proof that Africans are willing to sacrifice everything for their freedom. Thank you. One Africa, one currency, one destiny. One Africa, one currency, one destiny. Let me repeat. One Africa, one currency, one destiny. That's the way to go, fellow Africans. Let me move on to bilateral relations and commendation to Ghana. Since the establishment of a formal diplomatic ties, South Africa and Ghana have signed over 24 bilateral agreements and memoranda of understanding, covering critical areas such as trade, investment protection, double taxation, defense, transport, agriculture, ICT, arts and culture, and most recently, a visa waiver agreement for ordinary passport holders. These are some of the issues that are covered by the bilateral agreements between the two countries. In 2019, this cooperation was further elevated to the Binational Commission, commonly known as the BNC, at the presidential level, thereby ensuring structured follow-up and accountability. The significance of these agreements lies not merely in their signing, but in their effective implementation as they open pathways for deeper economic integration, technological exchange, cultural cooperation, and people-to-people connectivity. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party recognizes that Africa's liberation is incomplete without strong intra-African solidarity, and will therefore continue to agitate for a robust and action-oriented diplomatic relations between South Africa and Ghana, ensuring that these instruments serve the real needs of our people, advance Pan-African unity, and resist external manipulation of our continental partnerships. I must pause here to commend Ghana for its bold step in backing Morocco's autonomy plan over the separatist agenda in the Western Sahara. Some may disagree, but I say Africa must not be divided for the convenience of the outsiders. The era of balkanizing Africa to serve foreign agendas is over. By prioritizing stability and integration, Ghana has once again placed itself at the forefront of Pan-African leadership. The Morocco Atlantic Initiative, launched in November 2013, aims to connect the landlocked Sahel to the Atlantic Ocean through infrastructure development and regional integration. This initiative, spearheaded by Morocco, involves investments in ports, roads, and railways to facilitate trade and economic growth for countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. The initiative also seeks to foster cooperation in energy, security, and other areas. The initiative aims to transform the economies of Sahel countries by providing them with access to Atlantic and fostering regional integration. This regional integration must be the economic, trade, and currency bridge into BRICS, therefore northern and southern trade routes. That's what is needed. The days of Africa dancing to the drums are over. We shall beat our own drum now. Thank you. Umkhonto weSizwe Party, the future of South Africa. Umkhonto weSizwe Party's manifesto, which we refer to as the People's Mandate, outlines 8 pillars which serve as the foundation for our vision as a political party and policy proposals. Allow me to quickly go through them. The first is reclaiming our dignity. This pillar focuses on restoring the self-respect and pride of South African and the African people throughout the continent. The second pillar is reclaiming land and mineral resources. This pillar addresses the issue of land ownership and control over natural resources, advocating for policies that redistribute land and its resources. The third pillar relates to reclaiming people's power. The pillar emphasizes empowering citizens and giving them a greater say in the decision-making processes. The fourth pillar, reclaiming the economy. The pillar aims to address economic inequality and promote inclusive growth. The fifth pillar, building human capital and technological capabilities. This focuses on investing in education because we believe that there is no self-respecting country which does not invest in education. It also focuses on skills development and technological advances. Technological advancements, I beg your pardon. The sixth pillar, reclaiming spaces. This addresses issues related to urban development, infrastructure, and access to basic services. The seventh pillar being reclaiming safety and security. This pillar focuses on improving.
BRICS is a good thing. Kill the American dollar. You come to me, you want to buy gold, and then you give me papers in exchange for gold. And then you call that business. No, it must be value for value. So you want to come and buy stuff here, it's fine. How much do you want? It's for 60 million or 60 billion. It's good. I must go to New York and get value for what you have bought for me here. That means I can get land in America. I can get an industry in America. I can buy a company in America. I can buy stocks in America, so that the value of which you have taken away is not replaced by a bunch of frivolous photocopied pieces of paper. And right now the economy is running on the false idea of Nixon, who removed the American dollar from being gold-based to being paper-based. So Americans don't need any backup for their economy. All they're going to go to a photocopying machine and photocopy more papers.
The president stated that African countries are held at ransom and that they should employ other means of trade that are not dollar dependent.
We are all struggling, and all our businessmen are struggling, and our traders are struggling to make payments for goods and services from one country to another because of differences in currencies. And in the middle of all this, we are all subjected to a dollar environment. Kenyans want to pay for Tanzanian goods in dollars. Tanzania wants to pay for DRC goods in dollars. Egypt wants to pay. Why are we bringing dollars in the middle of our trade?
Ruto further stated that there is a mechanism in place that will allow traders to exchange goods and payment be done in local currencies that will be facilitated by the Afri-Exim Bank.
I am, however, delighted to note that Afri-Exim Bank, in its mandate to facilitate intra-Africa and extra-Africa trade, embarked on building a centralized payment and settlement system to support trade under the ACFTA. It is called the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. Banks and payment providers can plug directly to it to enable secure and instant payment in local currency.
We will continue discussions on practical measures to facilitate trade and investment flows through the increased use of local currencies. This is a matter we believe that further discussions need to take place, particularly amongst our finance ministers.
Congo is essential to the fourth industrial revolution. You cannot talk about AI without the Congo. You cannot fly a drone without Congo. You cannot have advanced technology without Congo. Why? Congo is the number one producer of cobalt in the world. It has one of the largest reserves of coltan in the world, and it has one of the largest lithium reserves in the world at Manono, right? So as long as Congo is kept destabilized and its resources are pilfered to other countries that can rebrand it as Rwandan products, then you don't have to deal with the DRC directly. And this actually happened 100 years ago with King Leopold, right? King Leopold of Belgium getting the rubber that was needed for the tires of the car, because there was the first industrial revolution then. They didn't have to deal with the DRC, and 10 to 15 million people die under King Leopold. And we are facing the same thing now.
How can we help foster the public-private partnerships, bringing American capital and expertise and standards to Africa so that we can keep exploiting, so that we can exploring where we can get these minerals?
That Africa has vast strategic minerals, which is correct. It's also the case that they're not exclusive to Africa. You can find these minerals in a lot of places around the world. It's just that we have largely declined to mine them around the world, and now it's predominantly mined in Africa. Is that right?
That's right, Senator.
Senator Kelly and I have introduced something called the Reshore Act, with goals to shore up domestic and defense supply chains for these critical minerals. Do you think that China is targeting these minerals in its Belt and Road Initiative in Africa?
I do. There are some minerals, and I didn't provide the chart now, but I can have it in closed session. There are some minerals that are, if not unique to Africa, they are predominantly found there, and all of our countries, to include us, rely on those imports. Yeah. And I believe China's maneuvering to secure those.
Probably a bad idea to make ourselves dependent on China, ourselves being the civilized world.
Africa, this is how the Americans treat you. You're not important to them. All you are to them is just a commodity, somewhere that has a lot of what they want. They're not talking about the benefits of China building roads and infrastructure for African countries. They're talking about what's in the ground, and we want it. After all, we are the civilized world.
Well, the Americans have not hidden the reasons for those bases. They have made it very clear is to protect American interests in Africa. What are the American interests in Africa? The American interest in Africa is not to protect the African people. That's not an American interest. One discernible American interest in Africa is minerals, to protect their access to strategic minerals. Today, DRC holds about 70% of the world's cobalt deposits. Zambia, which is a neighbor to DRC, also has got huge deposits. Niger holds 70% of the world's uranium deposits. DRC has uranium, Zambia has uranium, Namibia has uranium. These are strategic minerals. These are what the Americans are protecting. Protecting from who? From us, the Africans, the owners of these minerals? Certainly not. They are trying to protect, to monopolize these minerals, these strategic minerals. Keep away primarily China. Their talk is about China, 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 China. But China is not an enemy of Africa. We have never been colonized by China. There is no single African country that was a colony of China. Even today, China has never colonized and is not intending to colonize an African country. China has never shown any imperial interest in Africa. China was there with us. In our liberation struggles, China supported us. When the West was colonizing us, China was helping to liberate us. China was there to defend our independence, economically and otherwise. For instance, my country, Zambia, it was blockaded. All our neighboring countries were still under colonialism We had no access to the ports from Mozambique, from South Africa, from Namibia, from Angola. We asked the Americans, the British, to help us put up a rail system to the port of Dar es Salaam. They refused. President Nyerere of Tanzania came on behalf of Zambia and Tanzania to ask the leadership of China under Chairman Mao, Zhou Enlai, for help to build a rail. China at that time did not have the capacity, but China said there's no way, they have to do it. They mobilized both the human capital, the materials that were needed, the finances that were needed. It was a very difficult task. China did not have that type of rail infrastructure in its own country, but the Chinese people were ready to build that for us. And in the process, China lost 70 of its own citizens, of its own people, in the construction of that rail. The remains of those 70 Chinese people still lie in Zambia. We have 70 Chinese people buried in Zambia today. We have Chinese solidarity that will never be forgotten, that will last forever. At that time, China did not have a single mine in Africa. They did not have a single corporation operating in Africa.
Voice of Africa by Africans.
So guys, the Western world is playing their card to win Africa back completely, because now they realize that we are awake. So they are now trying to get us back through the G20. And how are they doing that? They know the weak point of our leaders. They understood the fact that our leaders want to sit at high table of equality. So what they are doing is that they are providing the table of equality before our leaders in the G20. They now want African Union to be part of the G20. The G20 grouping currently comprises 19 countries plus the European Union. So according to Bloomberg News, the G20 has agreed to grant permanent membership to the African Union. It's a trap. The G20 leaders are expected to announce the decision during their summit. And according to them, the G20 in 2023 will focus on the theme One Earth, One Family, One Future. Now they know. You see, all these things, they are scams to hold Africa back. Because the question is, for that long time, why now? Because they are now trying to ride on the greed part of our leaders. And at the climate summit, this European woman was telling our leaders that they are not only interested in extracting our resources, but they want to partner with us to bring value, jobs, blah, 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 and they are now trying to cook the mind of our leaders through enticing promises and blah, blah, blah. Listen, people, nothing good can come from the whites to make Africa great. Africa can only be great through unity, not joining BRICS. Of course, we need BRICS as a step to break off the Western chain. But our strength is solidly in unity, not joining anything that have to do with white people. Our leaders must be smart this time.
And what the governments should do is the following. They won't, but they should. First, the G20 should become the G21 by inviting systemically the chairperson of the African Union and the African Union to be the 21st country. The European Union is a member of the G20 as the EU. If you add the AU as the 21st for the G21, you add 1.4 billion people to representation at that crucial event. That will change decisively the discussion, because 1.4 billion people are not at the table for finance right now.
November 2025, South Africa hosts the G20 summit, the first African nation ever to hold a presidency. At the closing ceremony, they're supposed to hand it off to the United States. The Trump administration boycotts the summit. Fine, except they need someone to accept the handover. So they send Mark Dillard, that's chargé d'affaires, basically a temp, the lowest ranking head of the mission you can send. So South Africa says no, the president will not hand over to a junior embassy official the presidency of the G20. America is confused. What's the problem? He's credentialed, he can sign the documents, just hand it over. But South Africa is thinking, you want our head of state to pass power to a middle manager in front of the world. So here's the thing. Both sides think the other is being unreasonable because low power distance cultures, North America, Europe, believe hierarchy exists just for convenience. Titles are just labels. Get the job done. The janitor, CEO, they deserve equal respect as people. High power distance cultures, most of Africa, Asia, Latin America, most of the world, believe hierarchy is the natural order. Rank isn't a label, it's an actual meaning. A president handing power to a subordinate doesn't look bad, it is bad. Yes. It diminishes the office itself. So America saw a scheduling problem, and Africa saw disrespect. Either was wrong. They're running different operating systems, different cultural perspectives for what authority means. And nobody in the room could see it. There's more on this today at culturalperspective.com.
So thank you so much, guys, for listening. And I don't know if you notice this atmosphere, I don't know if you are noticing it, because from the talk, from how things are being spoken by our leaders and by so many people in these videos that we just watched, I have come to the analysis that the first thing that the Americans are noticing is actually the change in tone. The tone that Africans are coming out to express what they really want. Actually, what they are seeing is not the polite diplomacy anymore. They are seeing leaders that are coming out confidently, facing them to their they're actually talking to them, facing them right to their faces, that Africa is done being their junior partner. They want equality. So when these clips actually get to the American platform and they watch, of course, they are going to have a lot of conversations. It will be like a war zone, right? And of course, we will have on one side, we will have those who are like, Africa is not thankful, they are not appreciating what we've done to them. But of course, on the other hand, on the other side of the story, we will have so many people saying, honestly, that's good for them. If they want to have their own systems, run their own systems, then that is well done. One thing that I've also noticed, there is this one realization that is really eating the American public community. You cannot lecture a continent that now has other options. What Africa always wanted, it's options. I can either work with you or not. That's something that we didn't have, but now we have. So many partners and these blocks, they are not happy with this, because they, on the other hand, even if they are forcing themselves when it comes to taking African resources, we have other partners like China and Russia who are sending engineers, and engineers are actually producing bridges, infrastructure, good roads, and of course that will bring a lot of confusion, because when the Americans see clips of modern cities, modern bridges, modern trains, they'll be like, wait, why did we just let our influence slip like that? It's unbelievable. So, of course, when it comes to the mainstream media, it's not all about Africa is not choosing partner A to partner B, It's all about Africa wanting to choose Africa, nothing else. So, if you've noticed, one thing that our leaders don't want is, alignment, because that is what the West want. They want, when they say align yourself to this side, then you have to, but the mindset now is changing. If you want to get the real reactions of the Americans, and when I talk about the Americans, it's both the leaders and the locals, If you want to see their real reaction, then touch on the dollar. Speak about the dollar. Because at this point, African leaders, they have been singing the song of, using our own currency to trade. And as I sit down here, I'm like, my God, if I want to buy something in Ethiopia, I have to buy it in dollars. Who is it going to benefit at the end of the day? The Americans. It's going to benefit them, the American economy, not any African economy. And that is unfair. And I understand when our leaders say we need to come up with our own financial system infrastructure, whereby we will be trading in our own currencies to benefit our own economy. That really makes sense. But touch on that, and now you will get to hear the real, reaction of the American, because the dollar thing is really touching into their nerve. It's touching into the nerve of their economy. So, we are seeing a lot of American people saying a lot of things. And of course, they're like, if the dollar loses, the value in Africa, then of course, prices are going to be affected in their own country, in their home. And they don't want that. They don't want that at all. So, my good people, for me, I really trust in our leaders. Even if it's going to take so much time, we are going to achieve it one day, one time. At the end of the day, people are actually finally realizing that Africa holds the key to the green energy transition. If you say no cobalt, then or no lithium, then it means that there is no Tesla. Then it means that there are no phone chips. Then it means that there is no technology. That is what this technically means. So what should we focus on, like most of the time? It's actually the fact that Africa is standing up for themselves, or we are standing up for ourselves. And you can't say that that's just an act of aggression. It's an act of sovereignty, and that is what we want. At the moment, the Americans are actually confused. They are split. Now there is a lot of division because there is side A, side B, and of course, half of the country is worried about losing a resource hub, which is Africa. And we have the other side of the Americans who are actually starting to respect the African continent, which has refused to be pounced. And we really thank Aisha Speed, who came recently to Africa and showcased the real image of Africa, not the image that it is being taught in America and the Western world. So the world is becoming multipolar, which is very awesome at the end of the day. At the moment as we speak, the Americans have a question, and among themselves, the question that they have is, how are they going to be humble enough to sit down at the table with Africans as equals? Guys, I don't know what you think about this particular shift that is happening here and there. Because what do you think, guys? Are you seeing more Americans are supporting this shift, or are you seeing a fear of losing influence in